You know, Scourge, if I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna fight you in style.
Oh, really? Well, two can play by this game.
What's going on, everybody? Republic Cinema here, and in this video, his arm popped up. We're going to be taking a look at this Baiwei knockoff of the Transformers Studio Series Scourge. We'll get to that in a second. So, it's 2024 now, and it's been about a year since the official Hasbro product release, and since then, it's been going for quite a lot in the aftermarket. There is also an upgrade kit to, upgrade this, but that is also pretty expensive too, so both this guy and the upgrade kit altogether is like $100. So, that's why Baiwei came in and made their own version of Scourge. Now, originally, I was not going to get this figure, but I figured why not do a review to let you know whether this guy is a good pickup or not. But before we take a little bit more of a look for this guy, let's take a quick look at the packaging. So starting off, pretty cool looking box art, pretty much the same as the 102 Optimus Prime knockoff that we did a video on earlier. I gotta say, Scourge looking pretty creepy. And then the rest of the front of the box just comprises of words, names, and logos. On the top, side, and I believe the other side is all boring. Same thing with the bottom, but on the back you get a little bit more info of what you get inside the packaging. And that's pretty much the box. Let's just get into the figure. So starting off, painting and sculpting is not so bad. On one hand, there's certain aspects of this toy that are very much like the official Hasbro product, but on the other hand, there's certain parts of this figure that are completely remolded to make things more movie accurate. However, that head sculpt is looking a little cartoony. DNA did a better job. Now, if we look into painting, there are certain parts of the body that are molded in this light-ish sort of silver. The chains wrapped around the right arm are painted in a broad light paint. There is also the clear plastic as well. I suppose that's to reference the fiery furnace of Scourge's chest in the movie whenever you shine a light on his chest. Now, the shade of silver used for the shin guards right here is not as light as this one and not as dark as the standard silver. It's just a little in between. But anyways, what is a knockoff without its die-cast metal parts? One pair being located on the feet, the other pair being located somewhere around the chest. Now, quality-wise, there are a few joints that are a little too stiff and too loose, that being the shoulders being a little tight, and the legs being a little too floppy. Other than that, he's alright. Aside from one problem that I have with my copy, for some reason the left arm, when moving it around, sometimes it'll snap off real easily, which the quality control on the official Hasbro version did a better job holding the arm in place. Moving on to accessories, we can start off with the very thing used to kill Bumblebee, that being his two-blade side sword. I don't think I said that right. Which, unfortunately, unlike the original Hasbro version, this one cannot tap off like it did before because of that. So if the sword does happen to bother you when messing around with this guy, there's no way to take it off. But hey, the gimmick where you just close the sword onto Scourge's hand works flawlessly. But now, coming to think about it, did we ever see Scourge hold the sword like this in the movie? Because I don't remember. Let me know in the comments. He does also come with his arm cannon, which is black rather than gray this time. You're given the option to tab it on his claw arm, but when folding the hands in, you can't fold the fingers in all the way because, well, by folding them in a little more, that does allow for the gun to untab from the arm. So you're just left with it being like this. I recommend to do it the old-fashioned way. And if you're wondering, yes, this weapon is Blast Effect compatible, and can also store on either the butt or the back. Now, at the time of the official Hasbro release, the claw arm was good enough, but it could have been closer to the articulation as it was lacking a finger bend mid-finger and a swivel joint for the entire claw. That's why when Baiwei came around, thankfully they had a replacement arm. Yeah, Baiwei Scourge comes with two arms. And of course this one is much better, but for some reason you try to spin it and it stops. Kind of like Studio Series Blackout's rotor blade that he uses for his saw, in a way. I'm glad they fixed that on the grinder mold. Oh, and the arm's not the only thing you can replace, as these shoulder pads are replaceable. All you gotta do is simply untab them. Just make sure you don't get the two replacement shoulder pads mixed up. And there you go. Now we're closer to the movie accurate Scourge in a way. But, wanna get even closer? Here's this. You can have fun with this and move it around and adjust it however you want. And then lastly, he comes with a naked transwarp key, which simply just rests on this guy's hand. Hopefully when Apelink comes around for a Studio Series figure form, they do something like a naked transwarp key as well. But with the accessories out of the way, I believe we can fully move on to articulation. To start off, rather than the entire head being dictated by a series of ball joints, there is a swivel movement for the neck and an up and down for the head. I don't think this counts. Full rotation at the arm, bend at the shoulder, extended bend at the shoulder, bend at the elbow, elbow swivel. We already talked about this. And the only articulation for the left hand is that the fingers move outwards and inwards. Waist swivel, legs can spread. Leg can move forward, can move backwards. Thigh swivel, bend at the knee. The foot can move up and down, and lastly the foot is on a pivot joint. Now with the articulation out of the way, we can move on to size comparison, starting off with the original Studio Series Scourge, Studio Series 86 Scourge, Legacy Scourge, Yola Park Scourge, Battletrap, Scorponok, Nightbird, Mainline Nightbird, Freezer and Novocaine, Noah, Primal. Now moving on to all three of his victims, here he is next to Bumblebee, Airraiser, Mirage, and lastly here he is next to the Baiwei knockoff of the Transformers Studio Series 102 Optimus Prime. And the gang's pretty much all here. Well, some of it. We're missing a series of Terracons and Predacons. Hopefully we get a few paint variations of Scorponok later in the future. Of course I know there's one coming out next year. Super excited for that. But I hope they make Terracon drones that are a little bit taller than Freezer and Novocaine. As in the movie, there were Terracon drones that were in the same body design as Freezer/Novocaine, just a little bit taller. Perhaps a deluxe version could work, maybe even a Voyager class, and who knows, maybe a concept version of Predacon Rampage would be nice to see in the Studio Series as well, but only time will tell, as this is what we have for now. But anyways, it's time we get down to transformation, as not much necessarily has changed. But to start off, the screen accurate shoulder pads will be replaced with the original, as those will be greatly needed. And in case your copy has an arm that tends to pop off real easily, you can go ahead and get rid of that, as it doesn't necessarily affect anything whilst transforming. But anyways, the bottom bumper will unfold, the sword will somewhat unfold and extend all the way outwards. And now moving on to the legs, the knee will be made sure to be straightened, the toes will move down, the metallic piece will move outwards, and then this entire assembly will fold in. Now since this is the right side, the tab, which plugs both legs in together, will open outwards. And then after that, this entire assembly will be rotated 180. Same thing for the other side. Now the legs won't tab in just yet, as there is one step to do before we get there. Anyways, after the legs are folded in, this entire backpack will fold out. This midsection for the nose will fold outwards, and same thing for the side of the truck. Now this time around, the red clear plastic has been toned down tremendously, as with the original version, there was a lot. So yeah, hats off to Baiwei for toning that down. After that, the arm section will shift to a straight line, and untab and move to the other side. Same process applies to the other side, only this time the sword will be made sure to go on the crutch of this guy. And after that, we could safely fold in both of the legs, forming the back of the truck. After that, this will fold in, and then this will close right in between those two once shoulder pads, and this entire section will fold in, forming the top of the nose of the truck. The entire chest section will untab and fold out like so. This will close. The tab located on the wheels will peg into that slot located on the side of the nose, and then the grill will close in, forming the front of the truck. After that, the other wheel will close inwards as well. And then after that, this entire side section will fold in. Just make sure this tab slides onto that slot. After that, the smokestacks will move outwards and tab in a little better than the original. Same thing for the other side. But wait, we're not done yet, as there is one more thing to do. The arm cannon will split. The right side will move downwards, and this will rotate 180 in a way. After that, this slot will peg onto that tab right there, as well as for the other side. And here you have Baiwei Scourge in his truck mode. Now, the painting and sculpting is pretty much similar. Or at least for the sculpting. The painting, of course, has differences. Now, for some reason, there seems to be these odd, broad shadings slapped across the truck. I suppose that's for rust, but it ends up looking quite awkward. Other than the paint difference with the original, they're pretty much the same thing. Now, of course, the gun was used in a genius way to morph into junk, pretty much, as that's how the original model was anyways. Now, in terms of accessory storage, it's just the gun that only has accessory storage, nothing else. I suppose, much like robot mode, you can mess around with the chain and have it wrapped around the front of the grills. Why don't this be used for Battletrap? Now, is this guy compatible with Novocaine/Freezer? Yes, he is. As the side tab for either figure's shoulder plugs in nicely well on the slot with the gun. And there you go. Scourge has a extra junk in the trunk stored on the back. For a brief comparison, let's pull up the original Studio Series Scourge. I just noticed the original Studio Series has a lot of painted scuffs and scratches, whereas the Baiwei, not so much. I was wondering why this guy was so clean. Here he is next to Battletrap, and lastly, here he is next to Nightbird. But here he is next to both of them, and I gotta say, they all look pretty good together. Leave a comment down below which one you like the most. And I think that's pretty much it. I think that's all I had to say for this guy. Overall, pretty solid knockoff. Despite some quality issues, he's still worth the $20. Yes, I got this guy for $20. If you're looking to pick this figure up, you can find him for a good deal on AliExpress. But overall, I hope Baiwei comes back and does a more screen-accurate paint variation for this guy. That would be pretty cool. I believe they did that for their Baiwei version of Dark of the Moon Shockwave. But anyways, if you like what you saw in this video, be sure to slam that like button, share this with your friends as well. Turn on post notifications so that way you don't miss another upload. Let me know how I did in this video, and most importantly, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. See ya!